So I'd like you to speak to this issue. What are your thoughts? How do you think we can counter that? Because he has introduced even tribalism to the church. I think you saw some of his lieutenants saying that he's being targeted by the Catholic Church. He's being targeted by the Catholic Church for not being from that tribe. And you've seen what ACK Bishop spoke today, which has all the hallmarks of tribalism in it. Which begs the question, how then do we escape this tribalism trap? Because if you watch very keenly, you realize that ever since his space was threatened by the Gen Z, everything he has done to undermine the Gen Z and to undermine the movement or anything that the movement can achieve, he has done it with a tribal intention. For example, bringing Raila on board was all about bringing a certain tribe to government so that, once you bring the people from Nyanza, they feel like they are home, then you're able to now control government. So now that begs the question, how do we defeat tribalism? How do we remain tribeless? How do we make sure that tribalism is not the reason Ruto will continue to stay in power? Because it looks to me that he is actually pushing Mount Kenya towards that direction. If you look at what has been happening, I did a 10-point plan today, which Ruto has been following as a script. You realize that there's been an intention to isolate the mountain, or rather the Kikuyus, and make it a 41 versus 1 kind of thing. And they've actually, sadly, they've fallen for it, because now they are in this position where they've been pushed into, being tribal. Not all of them, but now the underbelly, or rather the bulk of the people in Mount Kenya, are being pushed towards showing their tribal card or showing their support for their tribal kingpin, which essentially then draws the rest of the nation away from them. So we stop becoming Kenyans united against Ruto, but it becomes Kikuyus fighting Ruto. And Kikuyus fighting Ruto cannot win. I'm here to assure you that any scenario that is based on tribalism cannot win. It doesn't matter how many numbers they have. As long as it's about tribalism, they cannot win. So how then do we do civic education to the mountain for them to understand that this is not about Kikuyus versus William Ruto. This is about Kenyans versus William Ruto, that their problems are our problems, that we go through the same thing, we are living in the same country. I was very sad when I saw them celebrating Uhuru and Gachagua. These are the same people that have put them in the problem that they are in. Hii shida ambayo iko sahi, it's been caused by those two people. So which begs the question, are we willing to support, say, Gachagua as a way of replacing Ruto? The politics of emotion, where we vote for Uhuru so that asifungwe ICC, and then we come vote for Ruto to punish Uhuru, then Gachagua to punish Ruto. I mean, we will be doing a vicious circle of poverty fueled by tribalism. How do we emancipate ourselves from this circle? Because that's what Ruto is pushing us into. He knows that as long as he's able to make this thing tribal, then it stops being about issues. It stops being about corruption. It stops being about accountability. But it becomes about, a tribe. So that kama mtu ameiba na ni wa kabila yenu, hiyo ni sawa. Lakini kama ameiba na ni wa kabila nyingine, sio sawa. So now, what we should be discussing today is, how do we overcome this trap that we are being pushed into? Tutajiondoa aje kutoka kwa huu mtego ambao tunaingizwa wa ukabila? That is what we need to talk about. And we need to ask ourselves, what happened to us being tribeless? We were tribeless all along. We came up tribeless. We fought this tribeless. Is there something like Mount Kenya Gen Z, for example? Kuna kitu kama Mount Kenya Gen Z that, I'm telling the Gen Z in Mount Kenya to take votes. Is there something like that? Are we able to stick together and fight this to the end? Are we able to do civic education and, tell the people of the mountain that even though Gachagua was removed, and much as they sympathize with the Gachagua being removed, there is no loss they've suffered. This is a person who's making his own money, doing his own deals. There was no benefit or loss that they suffered because he was bringing no benefit at all to the people of the mountain, and therefore his loss is not a loss to the people of the mountain. They should not see it that this is a person from their tribe that has been removed. And even though they are in pain, they cannot remove the current government by retreating to being, people of the mountain versus Ruto, because then Ruto will be able to consolidate the rest of the people against the mountain. And it becomes the same tribal joke that we usually do. Now, one of the things that has made people stop voting in Kenya is when people go to the ballot and they have to choose between devil 1 or devil 2. Or they have to choose between Joker A and Joker B. How do we get people to have options? Is there a shortage of leaders in our society, of integrity who can rise and be, and take leadership in our communities? What can we do to help those leaders in our communities who we see as leaders of integrity? How can we bring them out as a replacement to the corrupt people so that we don't have to keep celebrating the corrupt people, but we start seeing, other leaders who can also take that place? So this is what we need to discuss. And the subject about tribalism is a very emotional subject. But it is a conversation that we must start having. We must start asking ourselves, how much is this thing of the mountain hurting the movement towards change? How is it bringing division? And what can we do about it? And why does Ruto want it that way? So that, you have the mountain. And anyway, when you complain about Gachagua being removed, what are you telling the rest of the 40 tribes who have never gotten an opportunity to be deputy president? What you're telling them is that this seat is so valuable that if you lose it, you're supposed to complain. So the rest of the 40 tribes now start seeing it as valuable, when actually sense it is valueless. It is valueless because it has not added any value to the people of Mount Kenya. It has not brought roads. It has not brought hospitals. There's nothing it has brought. And therefore, it gives a false picture that it is a coveted thing, that it is a precious thing, when it's not. What is precious is good governance. You are to get a deputy president or a president who is a person of integrity, that is accountable, then that will be something to covet about. As Kenyans, we need to start asking ourselves the question, are we ready for change? Do we know what it takes to have that change? Are we mentally prepared for that change? Are we even ready to go to the streets, or we just tweet, occupy from the comfort of our homes, but never turn up? Only 10 or 15 or 20 people turn up and they are, hit with tear gas. Do we know that our power is in numbers? What is it we can do to get ourselves out of this trap? And how can we help in doing every Kenyan doing an effort? Because this cannot be Morara alone or Okia alone or Mother Karua alone or Boni Mwangi alone. This is something that every Kenyan needs to take an initiative and do the little that they can do to change the Kenya that they want. So are we ready for that change? And even if, let's say, for example, people of the mountain want a leader from the mountain to occupy the presidency, are they ready to look above the corrupt leaders in their region and instead identify leaders of integrity from within their region and say, here is our son, a person who is educated, who has a vision, who has a mission, and who is willing to be... Are they willing to, give a chance to leaders of integrity and not cheer and clap for mediocrity or for thieves like Uhuru and Gachagua? People messed up our country. stole our resources, more so Uhuru. He made a mess of our economy, our businesses died, agriculture died, everything. Even the mess Ruto is now, they started it with Uhuru. It didn't start with Ruto. Things have been bad enough since that time. Are we forgetting that what Uhuru did to our country? And if there are people, say, in the mountain who have forgiven Uhuru for what he stole, if you've already forgiven him, this money that was stolen was not the money of the people of Mount Kenya alone. It was the money of all Kenyans. What should the rest of us Kenyans who are still in pain, who are still lacking opportunities from the money that was looted under Uhuru, what should we say? Should we also forgive him? Yet, it's not tribal for us. So how do we kick out this tribal animal from within our communities so that it stops undermining the movement towards accountability and towards change?